side by side with volunteers and homeowner families to build homes for Habitat. What are you doing with the rest of your time?
Well, I think the highlight of every year has always been the Habitat projects. Rose and I started off in 1984 in New York twice, and we've been going basically overseas one year and then back in the United States in some different cities the next year. Last year we built Habitat houses in 6 different cities, mostly on the eastern side of the Mississippi River. We've been in foreign countries. We've been in Hungary and South Africa. We've been in the Philippines. That's the most houses we ever built. We built 293 homes in 5 days. But we had 14,000 volunteers who joined with us on 5 different sites. I think the most interesting place we ever built was on the demilitarized zone between North and South Korea. And after we did that, we were back home, and President George W. Bush said that, announced to the nation that next month he was going to the most dangerous place on earth, the demilitarized zone between North and South Korea. And I turned to Rose and said, that's where we built homes last week for Habitat. So we've tried to spread our influence as best we can. As you know, a few years ago, some of you were with us, we built homes in 5 different countries in the Mekong River Delta area, in Thailand and in Vietnam and in China, in Laos and in Cambodia. That was also a very interesting trip. I think all of them have been exciting and challenging, often hot. But I think that this is the Habitat project that is, first of all, the most important of all because of the great needs of the people here. And secondly, it's the best food we have ever had. I was trying to think in advance how I could get some applause, and I knew that would do it, so thank you very much. Well, when Rose and I are not working on Habitat, we still help the Habitat organization during the year if they have a special problem or a challenge in a different country. We've done that for the last 30 years or so. But we run the Carter Center in Atlanta, Georgia. We have programs in more than 70 countries around the world. Half of those countries are in Africa. 35 countries are in Africa, and we go to Africa often during the year. Each year we have 3 different basic things that we do from a border base for the Carter Center. One is that we try to bring peace to troubled areas of the world. And we often concentrate our efforts where the United States does not want to get involved, or either where the United States has condemned a particular government that our government doesn't like. For instance, Nepal is struggling now to form a government, a new constitution, but when we monitored the election there in 2008 in February, the Maoists won the election. And the United States calls the Maoists terrorists, so we don't have any relationship between the United States government and the government of Nepal, where Mount Everest is. So the Carter Center is still working on that. They now have a Maoist prime minister, and they're struggling to write a new constitution. The Carter Center also has tried to bring peace between North and South Korea. And the United States won't talk directly to the North Koreans, but the Carter Center goes into North Korea. I've been to North Korea 3 times, and the North Koreans seem to us to be very eager to have some progress made on their doing away with their nuclear capability. But what they want is 2 things. One is for the United States government to declare officially that we will not attack them militarily. And so far, our government has refused to make that statement. The second thing they want is to have a peace treaty between the United States and North Korea, and also including South Korea, to replace the long-standing ceasefire that has existed, as you know, ever since 1950-something, when the demilitarized zone was established. We don't have a peace treaty yet, and it's just a fragile treaty of ceasefire between the United States and China and North Korea. So I was there earlier this year to work with the North Koreans. Another place that we go every day is to the Middle East. If I had one prayer that has occupied my mind for the last 30 years above everything else in international affairs, is to bring peace to Israel. And the only way we can do that is for Israel to have peace with its neighbors. And the only way Israel is ever going to have peace is to withdraw their occupation of Palestine. So we work with the Israelis. we have a full-time office in Ramallah, which is in the West Bank, and we also deal with Gaza. We go into Gaza and work with the Palestinians there. And the leaders of the Palestinians, the Hamas, are in Syria. So the Carter Center works with Israel, Lebanon, and with Jordan, with Syria, with Egypt, with Fatah, and with Hamas. And we also try to bring all those parties together. As you know, the United States doesn't recognize Hamas except as terrorists. And in January of 2006, the Carter Center monitored the Palestinian election. That was the third one we did. And the United States approved Hamas candidates running, and so did Israel. And when the election was over, which was honest and fair and safe, Hamas won the election. And then the United States and Israel decided that Hamas couldn't run the government, so we and Israel declared that they were terrorists. So the United States government doesn't have anything to do with, I'd say, roughly 35 to 50% of the Palestinian people. That's the kind of thing that the Carter Center does on a political basis. And we often get involved in direct negotiations when there is a civil war going on in the country, or a conflict between two countries. We don't duplicate what others do. So if the United States and the United Nations are deeply involved in an area like Iraq, now Afghanistan, the Carter Center doesn't go into those areas. The second thing we do besides try to bring peace is to bring democracy and freedom. And this has to come through democratic elections that are honest and fair and obviously safe. So we just finished I think our 87th election, all of which have been troubled in some way. We don't waste our time going into an election if we believe it's going to be honest and fair without us. And so we've been for 3 elections here in Haiti, and also Rose and I were in Dominican Republic next door last year. We've been there for 4 elections. And so this is just typical of what we do. Rosen just returned from monitoring the new election in Tunisia. Tunisia, as you know, was the first movement in the so-called Arab Spring. And now they've elected a parliament, and they will begin now to write a new constitution for Tunisia, and later they'll choose a prime minister and a president. So the Carter Center is in the forefront of the cutting edge, you might say, around the world in bringing peace and democracy and freedom to people. Along with this, obviously, is the overwhelming umbrella of human rights. And we consider human rights to be a little bit different, I believe, from what most of you would say are basic human rights.